Hi guys, in today's episode we are going to talk about how we actually have been learning English for all these long years.
Way too many, I would say. It's for me it started a long time ago, since I was a kid. I was in kindergarten actually. What about you? When did you start?
Well, I have a complicated relationship with English because yes, as all kids I started in kindergarten, but I wasn't actually interested. It was more like, like a wave up and down.
Of interest?
Yes, because it depended on the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and it also depended on my interests back then.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I'm learning it for, maybe around 19 years, and you?
91. I'm not sure. I do know that it's more than 2 decades. I wouldn't know how to count because I don't really remember when I started. My very first memory about learning English, I would say, it was once that I had homework and I was doing my homework, my English homework, but I was very, very small. I don't know, maybe I was like 5-year-old, 4-year-old, something like that. But yeah, just like you, I kind of lost interest for a while. Then I felt a bit interested again. I think when I noticed that I started having an improvement was when they let us, not let us even, they made us memorize a whole list of irregular verbs. What about you?
Oh my god, yeah, irregular verbs are something. I had a great teacher. Then I had not such a great teacher. Then I had a great teacher. So it was changing all the time. But I fell in love with English at some point when I was finishing school. That's when I understood that I want to be an English teacher. I think it helped me to teach English, actually, to learn it. It's the best when you teach someone, you learn it. Yes, because it's like you have a purpose, and you have no choice. You need to know it to teach it.
Yeah, I started noticing that as well with other subjects. With that list, I remember it was part of the exam they made us, but I feel like it improved a lot my level. And it was when I was in high school maybe, and I started noticing one day they made us make a presentation. I don't know if you remember that story, yes you do. Basically yeah, they told us you have to make an exposition and talk for 2 minutes, and we make a sort of agreement. You are gonna say this part and I'm gonna say this part and so on. And I decided it's way too much text, I'm not gonna memorize that. So I thought, what if I say it? Just I read it, I try to understand it, and then I see if I can say it, what parts to reduce the amount of work. And it turned out that when I started trying to express it, I noticed like, wow, I can say without any help. I can put together the sentences and so on.
So you felt very proud of yourself, right?
Yeah. When did you felt that confidence for the first time about English? Like, I can speak.
Oh my God. I don't still feel confident. That's actually what I wanted to talk about as a part of a process. At some point you need to start feeling confident. You need to tell yourself like, okay, I know it, and I'm good at it. but there's such a thing that we both know, like as an imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think a lot
That's
of
right.
students and a lot of people in general struggle with it.
Yeah, I have noticed it as well now that you mention it. I don't know how many students you have noticed that have this
All of them.
insecurity, right?
Yes.
Right. I have noticed. I mean, even people that I wouldn't have considered that they feel like that. When you start teaching them, you notice how they start getting insecure. And it's like you have to make them notice that it's fine. That you can make mistakes. You are gonna make mistakes yourself even while teaching, right? It's normal. I think it's part of it, and it helps as well, as you said, to teach, to learn. When you teach someone, you learn better, I think.
You know, I think that this syndrome that we are talking about, it's worse for teachers. Because as a teacher, you are supposed to be perfect. You are not supposed to make any mistakes. Your pronunciation should be impeccable, you know, like, because you're a role model for your students. And it gives a lot of, how to say, pressure. Yes.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on us. That's something I just started noticing recently when I started teaching myself. But what about the first time that you had to use your English skills, like in a real environment?
Real environment. I'm not even sure. Maybe when I started talking to native speakers, like making friends, and
on the internet or directly?
Yes, on the internet. No, directly no. On the internet, and also I think when I started teaching Canadians, Americans, and I used English network.
So you started using it by writing, not by speaking.
Yeah, you would say like that. Yeah. Also, you know, since we're talking about how we learned and how we have been learning, one of the ways that I used is watching English movies, right? In English. And I remember my first movies that I watched completely in English with English subtitles. Wanna guess?
Is it your favorite movie?
It can be, well, it's with Cumberbatch.
Okay. That reduces the number, but I'm not sure.
Okay, that's Imitation Game. The Imitation Game. Actually, that's how I learned the word decipher, because they were using it a lot, and I felt very proud of myself. After watching it, I was like, wow, that's my first accomplishment.
You know, for me, when I started using my English like on the field, it was when I went to Canada for the first time. It was at the beginning. It was at the airport when we arrived. I started listening to the police officer talking to the other passenger, checking his papers and so on. And it was like, wow, I understood everything. This is so cool. And then I started trying to talk and so on. And it turned out that people who were the ones who were living with my friend that I was visiting, they told me, you know, your English is very good.
Wow.
I felt so proud because my friend was there studying and I wasn't. It was like, wow, it's amazing. How could I done such thing?
What do you think it helped you? Like, what gave you fluency? How you got it?
Fluency? I don't think I'm fluent
But
at
you're
all.
talking right now fluently, and when you listen to something, you understand. So.
Yeah, but I consider that fluency we can only reach it in our mother tongue, not in other languages per se. At least that's my concept of fluency.
Maybe you're confusing fluency with the level, like C2 level, native level. Because fluency, it's this, what we are doing. English is not our first language, but we both are speaking English right now.
I feel in my concept, I think part of the meaning is that if I don't make any mistake, or maybe only one, or two during the whole day of living in English, that is considered fluency. But I do feel like I make some.
That's one more topic that we need to talk about, perfectionism. That's what happens to everyone. Actually, I think those two, imposter syndrome and perfectionism, are connected. Right? Because you want to be perfect, you don't feel perfect, you feel like an imposter, and it's like a vicious circle.
I think so as well, because I am a perfectionist myself in many areas, not only with languages. What about other languages? I know, or I remember one of the ones that you have learned. It's not only Spanish that we talked about in the previous episode, but German as well.
Oh. Well, I forgot it. I don't use it, I don't teach it right now, so I lost it.
Well, myself, I started learning French when I was in high school, because it was one of the subjects that they were teaching us, and I lost it as well back then after I finished high school. And during high school as well, I started being interested in other languages, and I decided to take lessons of Japanese lessons, and I got to a B2 level. I was so proud as well. But I never practiced it, I never used it, so I lost it as well. And when I finished high school, I noticed that I took a sabbatic year, and I was resting from school and so on. And since I noticed that I lost both languages, Japanese and French, I decided I'm not gonna do the same with English. I'm not gonna lose it. It took me a lot of effort to be able to understand it and speak it, feel a bit confident about it. So what I decided was to start watching videos on YouTube completely in English, only in English, and that helped me a lot. I started getting used to using English on a daily basis, and to listen like common speech, like the way that they talk in that speed, or the kind of idioms that they use, or so on. And later, after several years, I decided like, okay, I'm gonna start studying French again. And when I started, I recovered it super fast. It felt amazing. It was like, wow, for real. So I thought, okay, maybe it is because I had learned it already in the past, because I felt it easier. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna do the same with Japanese. And I noticed that I recovered it as well, super fast. So yeah, pretty sure if you will try to recover your German, you're gonna recover it super fast. What about your Spanish?
Oh my god, Spanish, wow. It's very different. I wanted to tell you two things. And before you asked me about Spanish, I thought, it's very different when you learn a language by watching videos or playing computer games, or when you or when you learning a language by using students' books, like academic type of a language, and that's the difference that we have. I have been learning academic type, and I'm strong at academic words. I have that vocabulary, and when I was taking IELTS, it was quite easy. The reading part, listening part, I didn't suffer. But with some slang words, with swears, wow.
That's other story.
Yes, I think you are better
Yeah.
than.
I actually I would say that that's my weakness, exactly because of that same situation. My academic kind of English, or technical, I would call it, it's weaker than my slang vocabulary, because yeah, basically that's how I learned. Just like you said, I learned by playing video games, by watching movies, by listening to music, by watching those YouTube videos. That's how I learned it and maintained it. But I think those last stuff are way too interesting to use them for the next chapter. So you can't stop listening to it. Okay? So see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.